Yeah, my name is William Priestley and I'm running for the Trinity College Shannon panel. Sure, I've been involved in education for over 10 years now, and I suppose as the country's most prestigious university, it would be ideal if the senators from the college were education experts or had an expertise in that field. And I think that's kind of the idea of what the Shannon is supposed to be, that it's supposed to be made up of experts on the different panels, and unfortunately that hasn't been the case for a long time. So, for something like the Labour panel or the agricultural panel, that we don't have people who are experts in that field. So for the Trinity panel, I would think that my own experience and expertise in education would make me a prime candidate. I suppose my first engagement with representation in education was as president of the Students' Union here in Trinity College. At the time, student fees and the grant were big issues. I then went on to represent all students in Ireland as president of USI, and then, which again was a great honour and something I'm very proud of. And I went on from there to work in Mississippi in a small little African American school run by a nun from Ackle Island, if you can believe that. So I was working with at-risk young people there, and I came back to Ireland, worked in Youth Horizons in Jobstown and Tallaght, so which is kind of a school in many instances for young people who had kids themselves. So it was a creche there. So that was another great insight, and I suppose a really good appreciation of the challenges that young people are facing who have kids, when they're quite young, they're still at school. I then went and worked with the Irish Probation Services. I was working with high-risk reoffenders there who were kind of in their mid-20s or so. I suppose over this span I kind of built up an experience working with at-risk young people in primary, secondary, and at a third level. From there I went down to my current role in Limerick. So I work on one of the Limerick Regeneration Estates. I suppose most people are familiar with South Hill or Moyross, so I work just beside South Hill in a place called Ballinacre Weston, which unfortunately is more renowned for gangland violence and the Dunham McCarthy's and things like that. So I've been there for 6 or 7 years, and I've been working with the young people there. I run the youth service in the area. So I'd like to think that my experience based on all of that is quite encompassing, and I have a pretty good understanding of the challenges young people are facing who don't really have third level education on their radar really. For a lot of our young people, social welfare payments is a big competition. You can work, well, I can get €100 on the labour, or I can go to college and get less than that on the grant, and it's going to cost me money. And unfortunately, some people make decisions, based on that. So I have a lot of hands-on experience, and I also have experience then working at, at a higher level, from my representative role in a national scale. I think the increasing cost, obviously the number of third level students has been going up over the years. The amount of money the government is putting in has been going down, and with that the student registration fee is, somewhat euphemistically labelled. It's really becoming fees, isn't it? So I think that's going to come to a head over the next few years, and that's going to have serious consequences. We've seen the case in England, what it means when students are being charged £10,000–12,000. So that's definitely one. Student grant, as I mentioned, particularly for those at-risk young people, and specifically in Dublin, you'd have to think rents. I think rents are difficult for working, those who are working at the moment, let alone students. Now that's kind of something that in a different guise has worked in other countries, usually military service, that a year after college you do a year's service. And I think one option is, given the breadth of experience and the amount that's been invested in students, they would have the option to give back, so they could work, whether it be in the community sector or for the civil service or whatever it is, in lieu of the student registration fee. So it would kind of balance out. You would also have the option to pay the registration fee, or if it increases in effect, it become fees. So each student has a choice. You can pay fees if you want, or you can give back when you're finished.
Okay, and would you be a proponent of free fees at all?
I would be. In an ideal scenario at the moment, it doesn't seem like that's sustainable until the country is back on its feet. So I think we do need to be creative. So I think Trinity's leading the way at the moment. Very positive developments in terms of being divesting from fossil fuels, which I think is really gathering pace, and hopefully will happen. The idea about the green agenda or the green technologies is really that often when people think of the green agenda, they just think of climate change and ice caps and polar bears and things like that. But like, there's a huge economic opportunity there. Like a lot of the stuff that's going on, it's going to happen irrespective of whether people buy into it or not. And we could just see that there's a niche there for the country as a whole, and there's no reason why Trinity can't be at the forefront of that. That the renewable energies is really just getting going in terms of wind energy, but I think going forward, it's tidal energy is where it's going to be at. And I think the opportunity for research and design exists for a smaller country like Ireland, which couldn't compete in other areas because it didn't have the natural resources. So, for example, car manufacturing or things like that are very resource intensive. We didn't have that opportunity. But with green technology, it is about research and design. Yeah, I suppose I have three main reforms. The first one would be obviously opening up the franchise. The university panels have attracted quite a lot of attention in terms of the fact that it's very exclusive, which obviously is something that needs to be reformed. But I think sometimes people forget that there's always over 50 senators who were elected by 1,000 people, whereas the university ones have a franchise of 200,000. So I suppose having that debate and also reform in that sense. Second reform would be around the panels, and that they really need to be filled by experts. That's what the Seanad is supposed to be about. And the third thing would be kind of focusing on the powers that the Seanad would have in terms of making a difference. At the moment, it can really only delay bills, which is certainly a function. It can like flag things that maybe need to be improved, but it doesn't really have any teeth. So definitely looking at that, or even capitalising on the expertise of those on the panel. So, for example, for state board appointees, or for the appointment of judges. The judges are appointed by the government at the moment, which really means that the politics of the judge plays a central role in whether they get appointed or not. Well, if we had a panel in the Seanad based on legal experts, why aren't they the ones who would be appointing the judges, or interviewing like you see in the US in the Seanad there? It's a great opportunity. It really is a great opportunity for graduates of Trinity. This is probably going to be the last Trinity election. I think there's a chance to reinvigorate what it means for the Trinity representatives. We have a great tradition down through the years. There's a lot of great candidates this time around, and I really think there's a chance for some new young blood to take up the mantle. It's an exciting time.
Okay.